These losses are killing me. So, Sacktown breakdown. I'd say this last time we were good. It took us getting a good coach, 2 good rookie drafts, trading for a talented, troubled star. I'm guessing that's Chris Webber, and an experienced vet center all in one off season. We are toast. Yeah, I mean, the positive that I can say is at least our front office is competent. So if we end up having another bad season, we're going to get a good draft pick and we're going to hit the draft. We're not going to draft a bad player. I'm pretty confident with that. We're 2-2 now in first-round draft picks with this front office. I don't see why they won't make another good pick. All the guy that you guys really like, Chris Duarte, was the Kings' second option in this draft. So if they had not gotten Davion Mitchell, they would have taken him, and he's been balling this year. So I'm pretty happy with our scouting department, and I'm pretty happy with the front office. So that's one positive that I can take from this. But you got to win these games. Honestly, have to win these games.
You do. You do have, yeah. It's just really sad. And I'm reading the comments here. Somebody's talking about the Pacific Division being so hard, and that's 100% correct. But the Kings play a lot of games that aren't in the Pacific Division.
And we haven't played the Lakers yet. We haven't played the Clippers yet.
These are games they need to win. They need to beat Indiana.
We played the Suns twice. We beat them once.
Yeah. But it's all these other games. You know, if the Kings lose to the Lakers or they lose to the Clippers or the Suns or the Warriors, as long as they're not getting blown out by 20 or 30, we're all going to sit here and say, well, that's one of the toughest teams in the league. Mm-hmm. You know, it was good that they were able to keep fighting their way through it. It's these losses, Oklahoma City, San Antonio, Indiana, who's comes into Golden One Center, and whatever it was, 7 or 6 on the road.
Yep.
Those are the games, the losses that are frustrating, and it's those losses that keep you from making the playoffs. It's not the losses to these really good teams.
Yep.
I mean, yes, it hurts to go winless in your division. The chances of you making the playoffs or doing well are not good if you do that. Mm-hmm. But you have so many other games that are considered winnable against these teams. You'll never be a playoff team if you don't win those games.
Yeah, and we're not saying the season's over at this point, but the alarm is on. You need to take advantage of these games, and you need to take advantage of the moment, and the Kings need to turn it around very, very soon. Because you can't keep losing these winnable games, especially against teams like the Thunder that are close to the bottom of their conference. The next game is against the Pistons. If they lose this next game, I have no excuses for the Kings. I really don't.
Yeah. Do you think they need to make a move right now? And what's that move going to be?
You and I talked about Mo Harkless being the weak point in the starting lineup. They brought in Metu tonight. I like that. I like what I saw from him starting out the game. But then you go and you look at his stats tonight. 4 of 12 from the field. That's not good. He took a lot of bad shots. I like the energy. I like the enthusiasm. He was playing great early, and then it just kind of went downhill from there.
True.
So
still, though, we've said with Mo Harkless, if you could just get 10 points out of him a night, right? That would be a huge difference. Metu gave you 14 today.
Yeah, but Mo Harkless doesn't shoot the ball 12 times.
No, that's true. He does not. But you also don't want him to shoot the ball 12 times.
Yeah, I want 10 points on 5 shots.
Yes, ideally,
in a perfect world. But, to get back to your question, whether the Kings make a move, I think they do need to make a move at this point. But I'm reading reports about the Pistons are interested in Marvin Bagley, which there's no surprise there. Kings offered them last year Marvin Bagley for Sadiq Bey, which the Pistons declined. But the Pistons have been tracking Marvin Bagley for a long time. And the most interesting thing that I read in that report is that a trade is not likely to happen until December 15th. If you don't know what happens on December 15th, that is the date that all players signed this offseason are eligible to be traded. So the trade pool just like quadruples in size at least.
Yes.
So yes, this Kings team needs to make a move, but I don't see them making a move until at least December 15th.
Yeah, you could be right about that. I think they need to make a move, and I think it has to be at head coach. Trading is one thing, and there are so many different potential trades, who's involved, all this stuff. There's so many unknowns to that. But one thing that is becoming clear to me is that Luke Walton is not the right person for this team. Whether they make some additional trade before the deadline or try to move some pieces around, change the lineup, he's had a lot of opportunity with this team. And, I forget who it was in the chat a few shows ago. Somebody said something like, how much longer can Luke Walton last with this 1 step forward, 2 steps back sort of a thing? Tonight is another 2 steps back.
It really is.
And I just don't think you can afford to have too many more of those.
The Sacktown Breakdown says, my biggest question with Monty is, if he's so competent, why did he keep Luke after losing seasons and one of them with 2 9-game losing streaks?
It's a great point.
Didn't he just burn one of his years?
Great point.
Yeah. Yeah, that is.
I was confused about that myself.
Point. I don't think it's okay to have losing streaks, especially 9-game losing streaks. Unforgivable. But in Monty's defense, if you're a newcomer to a job, you're taking over a position, you don't want to change everything at once. It's not fire everybody and start from the ground up. I feel like he wanted this team to have some consistency, and he chose Luke Walton to be that guy. I think the Sixers did the same thing with Bruce Brown, was we're going to keep this guy, we're going to keep drafting players, and then we're going to reevaluate the coaching position. And I think at this point, as much as players like him, De'Aaron Fox likes Luke Walton, like you gotta step forward and you gotta say, hey guys, what's going on here? Why are we losing all these games? Like, is this on the players or is this on the coach? Because we need to make a move. Something needs to change here. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. Mm-hmm. And we want some different results in Sacramento. We want this Kings team to be a good team. We want them to make the playoffs. A championship would be great, but, that's not reasonable at this point. That's not what we have our eyes on. Our eyes are just making the playoffs and being a competitive team. So you take that and you say, okay, Luke, well, these are some moves that you've made that I don't agree with. These are some rotations you made that I don't agree with. And we're losing to bad teams. We understand you had a tough start to the schedule, a tough start to the season. But now you're losing to teams that are clearly inferior teams, and you're losing to those teams. So I feel like Monty didn't want to rock the whole boat when he got here. It wasn't a fire everybody and trade everybody moment. It was a get in, evaluate what you have, make good moves, like in the draft, stuff like that. Don't handicap yourself from the future, and move on from them. I honestly think that Monty McNair's entire game plan from day one was accumulate assets, trade for a star player.
Yeah.
And if you fire your coach...
If that's the case, it's time to make a move like that. Though.
Yes. And if you fire your coach right away and you bring in a better coach, you're not going to lose all those games. You're not going to accumulate those draft picks. and you're not going to get that young talent that you can build up and trade for a better player. So honestly, that's the only reason I could think that he kept Luke Walton.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. At this point, I want to see a sense of urgency from this organization, this front office. I want to see some type of move that says we realize this isn't good enough anymore. You know, it's one thing. You made a lot of good points in the last couple of shows about this is a new Sacramento Kings team, no bad contracts. They have all their draft picks. They've drafted well. They're doing all the right things, right? They're building something from the ground up. But at some point, enough is enough. Mm-hmm. And it's time to do something a little bit more extreme, a little bit more, with a sense of urgency. Like I said, it's time to put your foot down and say, we recognize that this team's underperforming. Have underperformed, for a couple of years now. And we recognize that we can't just keep beating our heads against the wall over and over again and trying to roll out with the same thing. It's time to do something different.
Yep, I agree. I want to